Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show, and we are very, very pleased to have you with us. We've got a interesting show for you tonight. Not exactly sure what we're going to talk about, but usually I have time to think of something. By the time Uncle Bocce gets through with the history, he prompts some sort of, connector to today's environment. The title of the show is something about resistance. What exactly is the title of the show, Ms. Surefire?
Let's talk resistance and why.
Okay, there we go. Mm-hmm. So that's broad enough. We ought to be able to squeeze something in there. As you can tell, I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a Surefire.
And...
Uncle Bocce.
We are ready to rock and roll. We are all over social media as Doc Owen Show, DocOwenShow. We have a blog that is growing in fame, DocOwenShow.com, and we're bubbling up a new idea for something else to use the blog for. Uncle Bocce and I may do some sorting out on the air, and we will appreciate your input as we implement this idea. We have free apps, FREE free, for both Android and Apple devices. It's a really nice way, clean, clear-cut way to listen to the show, as well as get access to the archives. We are, as you see by the show, it's Y5.38. That means it is our 38th show of our 5th year. So we've been doing this a little while. We're beginning to get the hang of it. And, we just keep throwing content out there and lessons learned and see how we go forward. We would love to hear from you at DocOwenShow.com. I don't exactly remember all of the email addresses. Mine's doc at DocOwenShow.com. Your Uncle Bocce at DocOwenShow.com. And you're Anna at DocOwenShow.com. Ruh-roh.
Oops.
Ruh-roh. We'll change in the moniker there. We always start the show in a very traditional manner, and that is Ms. Surefire gives us a moment, an inspirational quote that she has found somewhere. Uncle Bocce gives us this moment in history, and I close it out with a leadership quote or two. So, without further ado, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from the often quoted BrainyQuote.com.
Brainy quotes.
That's BRAINY quote.com.
Single.
Yes.
Okay, Brainy quote.
And tonight's quote comes from a lady that I would say most of us knew, like through probably Generation X.
Okay.
Is Carol Burnett.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
Carol. Good. Oh, she was awesome.
Native
Yes.
San Antonio,
Yep.
native of San Antonio, Texas.
That's
Is she?
right.
I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Good
Yes,
for
sir.
you, Carol.
Yeah, and she is an American actress, comedian, singer, and writer. That her work spans over 7 decades of television.
Holy guacamole.
Yep.
She was a busy. Well,
She still is.
She
was
probably. Let's see if she's still in the. Yep, she's still working it.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, and her quote is, "Only I can change my life. No one can do it for me."
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's true.
That's a lesson that people need to learn.
That's a
That's
tall
true.
That sure is.
order.
It is.
But,
It
I mean,
is.
it's a good aspiration. Good job.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Especially for you young people. That's a good aspiration.
Yeah,
That's
now
true.
you can't start early. Uncle Bocce, what happened?
Okay.
That we need to know about.
First thing, a shout out because on this day, my cousin Lucy was born. I'm not going to give you the year because I don't want to give away her age. So, Lucy, happy birthday.
And many more.
And
Happy
many-
birthday.
And many more. And also on this day, in 1776, the Lee resolution was presented to the Continental Congress. Now,
He's still in Congress.
Henry Lee?
Oh, Mike Lee.
Yeah, you're talking about Mike.
I was talking about Robert.
Well, that's his distant brother.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, he presented kind of like a Declaration of Independence, but by the time that they got around to looking at it, it was overshadowed by the release of Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence.
Oh,
So
Thomas Jefferson is a tough one to compete with.
That's right. We could have had July 2nd instead of July 4th. But July 4th won out.
I don't know. There's just July the Tooth just doesn't have the right ring
Yeah,
to it.
it doesn't.
That's true.
After
But that was today.
200 years of July the 4th, I can understand why.
Right.
And that's it. That's it for today.
That's it.
Okay. I'm going back to the book that G gave me called God Bless America, Prayers and Reflections for Our Country. And these are, I got 2 quotes from folks that we know about freedom. And the first one is, freedom is one of the deepest and noblest aspirations of the human spirit. That was from Mr. Ronald Reagan. Followed by someone equally as eloquent, Mr. George Bush. We know what works. Freedom works. We know what's right. Freedom is right.
W said that?
Yes.
That's pretty
If
good.
I've read
Now, why was that lost in history? Go ahead.
because it was W. That's why we're going to talk about resistance
Good.
tonight.
Good. Good.
Actually, in terms of this may surprise you. In terms of communication skills and the ability to get your thoughts across to your audience, the much maligned George W. Bush ranks right at the top
No
of
kidding.
all presidents in terms of the way he delivered a message. I read his book. I read his first book. It was you could tell he wrote it. A long sentence was like 8 words.
Wow.
You know, but it was succinct. Boom, boom, boom. You know, just like that quote.
Good for
That
him.
that I just read to you has, it's got a colon after each and a period. So that's 2 sentences with. I mean, he breaks it up. Just clunk, clunk, clunk. It's what we call chunking. He puts it in little chunks, and it makes it much easier
To read.
for the audience to envision, to absorb, to.
Well, good for him.
Keeping it
Just
simple.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting. A lot of people don't know that. So we're gonna have David Bray on for just a little bit again tonight with a bit of his talking, some more of his Music on a Mission, his new album that debuted at number 6 on iTunes. That's huge on a global scale. That's really a big deal, and it's a very interesting album. So I would highly encourage you to go out to iTunes and download a copy of it. It's like $10. So, and it's called Music on a Mission. And if you look up Dave Bray USA, he's just not that hard to find. Where are we in history, Uncle Bocce?
We are at number 19.
All right.
The man with the name Rutherford
B.
Hayes.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. Him
Yeah.
are the only Rutherford we've ever had for a president.
That is
by
absolutely
first name
correct.
or last name or
That
middle
is-
name that I know of.
I'm gonna tell you what the B stands for in a second here, but
It stands for B, Rutherford B. Hayes.
yeah, okay, but when I look at the list of presidents, the last person I wanted to know anything about would be Rutherford B. Hayes.
I don't think so.
No, that's what I'm getting at. That's the point I'm trying to make. But now that I've studied him, he was a really good man, a very well-educated and good man.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he served from 1877 through 1881.
Okay.
And before he accepted the nomination, he told everybody, 4 years, 1 term, that's all I'm going to serve.
And he stuck to his
He
word.
stuck to his word.
That makes him rather unique right there for a politician.
Yeah. If you really want to know what this man had in his mind, read his inaugural address. It's the only one. And there's a lot of food in there, I'll tell you. So anyway, this particular election was one of the most controversial elections until we came up with 2000, the election in 2000 between George Bush and that other guy, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Now, you remember Florida and all that going back and forth, who was going to be the president? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they kept talking about hanging some guy named Chad, like he did it on
yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
I never
Yeah.
saw any pictures of Chad.
Wow. Amazing. So we'll talk about that controversy a little bit when we get down to the
Why'd we have
actual
hanging Chads
election.
in Rutherford's day?
No, but you'll find out what we did have.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
Yeah,
Let's go,
it is.
man. Roll,
It
Like
roll,
a
is.
roll.
soap opera.
Hayes is also responsible for
If I go to the
being-
blog, can I read ahead?
If you do what?
Can I read ahead if I go to the blog, or do you not put it up until after you've talked about it?
After.
Ay, Chihuahua. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so he was the first president to use the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell personally installed the phone in the White House. Yes, how about that? And,
Wow, that's service.
and he was also
You have no idea why that's such a big deal to Uncle Bachi.
yeah, because I never remember my phone.
He doesn't know that the first word nowadays in phone is mobile.
Yeah.
Just get on that horse and just ride that horse, huh?
Yep.
That would stand out for you. Okay,
That
let's
would.
go. Rutherford B. Hayes,
Okay,
the
so-
phone guy.
He was yeah, he was also responsible for the beginning of the annual Easter egg roll on the White House lawn.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
That was this man who did that.
Wow.
And
There was a song about that a few years back.
was there?
No, it was a jelly roll. Okay, never mind.
Oh, okay.
Baby, roll.
How do you roll jelly? Okay, I don't.
It's a jelly
saying.
roll.
He was educated at Kenyon College in Ohio, and he also graduated from Harvard Law School. So the man was brilliant. I mean,
Well, no, he was well educated.
he was well educated.
There's a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference. He's well
Our
educated.
young audience needs to know that. There's very
Yeah.
much a difference.
And
Oh,
you ever-
yes, I can attest to
Yeah.
that.
And Rutherford is a very unusual name to begin with. But then his middle name, which was B, was for Burchard. Birchard. Rutherford Burchard Hayes.
Oof.
Boy, a lot of these presidents have names like we've never heard of before. You know?
That's
It's
why they
interesting.
became president, because they
That's
were easy
why.
to remember.
That's why. He had a couple of nicknames. The most popular one, and I'll tell you why. He was called by his opponents his fraudulency.
Ay, jeez.
Yeah,
Wow.
because they say he allegedly stole the campaign of 1876.
What party was
More on
Mr.
that.
Hayes in?
Hayes was a Republican.
Go figure.
Go figure. Exactly. So I'll tell you more about that in a little while. He was also called the dark horse president because they had,
Where are you, 1876?
yeah,
Is that what you said?
yeah,
And
yeah.
the Democrats were attacking the guy for being a fraud, for not
right,
actually winning the election.
right, exactly,
176 from 18, whatever that is.
yeah,
42.
okay.
142 years ago.
That's a long time.
Man.
He was a
They
Republican.
need
He
to get
represented
over
the
it.
Republican Party, which they compromised on him because there were seven votes to name, and they finally compromised on him, and he got the nomination without really any problem.
Okay.
He was 54 years old. He was 5'8". He weighed 170, 180 pounds. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if you've noticed, but since we started in the beginning, there was a lot of men of religion.
Yep.
And there were some that weren't, but there were. But I'm getting the idea that the more and more we get to modern day,
The less
the
religion.
less religion there is.
Yes.
And Rutherford B. Hayes is a prime example for that. He came from a Presbyterian family, but he attended Methodist schools as a youth. Okay? Many of them name him as a Methodist, but in generally, he agreed he held himself to be a Christian, at least, but of no specific truth. In his diary, he wrote, writing a few words for Mahunk Negro Conference, whatever. He found the important thing is the quote. I found myself using the word Christian. I am not a subscriber to any creed. I belong to no church, but in a sense satisfactory to myself and believed by me to be important. I try to be a Christian, or rather, I want to be a Christian and to help do Christian work. So that was the extent.
Do you
Yeah, go ahead.
do you think that they were downplaying religion to win elections? In other words, to keep it from being an issue, when in fact our founding fathers thought it was the issue.
Exactly.
But as we have now gotten more into Democrat versus Republican, and more into elections that tend to resemble what we do today. I'm just saying. I don't know, but you've made the observation. And I'll bet you it's going down the path of keeping it out of the way. Not necessarily that they weren't believers, but just didn't want it to be part of the decision process.
Yeah.
When we get to JFK, I remember all the hootenanny about, the fact that he was Catholic.
Yeah.
Like that was going to make him a bad president.
Yeah, big deal, right? And Lucy, guess what? His wife's name was Lucy. And she was a Methodist, so she kept him going to the Methodist church. He would go with her to church.
Good.
Okay? And she also was a temperance advocate and deeply opposed to slavery. And Rutherford was born October 4th, 1822 in Delaware, Ohio.
Okay.
He died January 17th, 1893. His resting place is in Spiegel Grove State Park, for those of you who live in Ohio and want to go visit him, which is in Fremont, Ohio. Remember last time they raised the salary?
Yeah.
To $50,000.
Only for the second term.
Second term. So he comes in at $50,000. Guess what that is in 2014 dollars?
1 point something mil.
You're right. $1.1 million. Man, that's a lot of money.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
He held two offices.
I haven't made that much sense. Go ahead.
Yeah. He held two offices before he became president. One was the U.S. House of Representatives, where he served for 2 years. And then after that, he became governor of Ohio twice. We had
after he was president?
No, this is before.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
This is before.
I was back at 1.1 million.
Right. He was governor of Ohio when he was elected. His first lady, of course, is Lucy Webb. And they had 8 children together. Okay? Can you imagine?
No.
And 7 of those 8 were male.
My goodness.
1 girl.
Lucy was a saint.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then that one daughter, with 7 brothers.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
She never married.
That's what I was thinking.
I bet nobody got close to that girl.
Let's talk about the campaign.
I bet she was the last one, too, wasn't she?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah,
when we
they
go
kept
through
having
it.
them until they had a little girl. You know the story.
Yeah. Well, no, the girl was like number 5, I think. But anyway.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
Anyway. Okay. Now, the campaign. Here was what was interesting about the campaign. The Democrats put up a guy named Tilden. It was Samuel Tilden. He was from New York, very popular, very qualified to be president. And the Republicans put up Rutherford B. Hayes. Well, what ended up happening is that Samuel Tilden outrightly won the popular vote. Just like Al Gore did. Okay, getting the similarity here. He had 50.9% of the vote to Rutherford's 47.9. However, what happened was there was some commotion going on with several states as to whether or not they were going to go, one way or the other. They couldn't figure it out. At the time, they were tied, 184 to 184. What do you do with that?
Supreme Court.
Neither one had enough,
Right.
to win out of 369 votes. So what happened was this time Congress set up a special commission, and they awarded the disputed electoral votes to Hayes.
Do we know why?
No, I really didn't dig into the why, but it was a Republican Congress.
I was about to ask.
Yeah.
There's the why.
So
Duh.
yeah, so he gained one vote, enough to put him over, and boy, the Democrats were,
For the next 4 years.
oh gosh, they were just out of touch. They
so
really
our
were.
current day
They were
Democrats come from a long line.
happy. Bingo.
Okay.
Of not accepting the vote of the people.
Man.
Exactly. And it also points out another thing that there's a thing going on now about getting rid of the Electoral College.
Yeah.
What a bad idea.
Oh, it's toast.
Oh, it's toast.
It's
absolutely.
Crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the Democrats want that because they lost a lot of elections because of the popular vote. Yeah.
Well, because we may have to get into that. We may have to really dive
Yes.
into an explanation for our audience because
Yeah,
I can tell
yeah.
you a lot of young people, surveys are done, they don't like the Electoral College. Because they don't understand it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's all there is. That's the only excuse
Yep.
for not liking the Electoral College. It evens the playing field so that the city of New York and the city of Los Angeles and the city of Chicago
There you
don't
go.
elect the president.
Right.
If you didn't have the Electoral College, those three major metropolitan areas would tell you who your president is.
That is correct.
Think about that, folks.
Yeah, do you
For
really want that?
Yeah.
Is that what you really want?
Right.
Okay.
Is that what you really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
The cabinet, he had the usual members of the cabinet that he selected. There were no states that came into the union.
Yep.
As far as federal judgeships, he
He was only there 4 years. What can
he's
you
only
do?
there for years.
He's not Trump. What can you do?
Yeah, well, he did successfully nominate 24 judges, and they were confirmed. 2 of his nominations were withdrawn or rejected on the vote. So he had quite a good,
Pretty good run for 4
Yeah,
years. Yep.
yeah. So
Considering all the flack he was taking the entire 4 years for not being the real president.
exactly.
Man.
So that's part 1 of Rutherford B. Hayes.
Okay, good job.
Next week,
Part 2.
Uncle Bocce will not be on the air.
And we may well have a rebroadcast.
They
'cause
might.
We're on the road.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's right.
we gotta see how that works.
Right. So the following week I'll be back. Then the week after that I'll be out on the 28th. I think it is.
Yeah, it's the summer season,
Yeah.
folks.
That's
That's the
right.
way it works.
Yep.
We do the best we can for what we can
Okay.
afford to pay.
So who am I and how can you contact me? I am Uncle Bocce, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com. I'm waiting.
Okay, so let's have that before we take a little break here
Mm-hmm.
in the studio and listen to some David Bray and grab a shot of water or whatever. Let's talk about the idea that you brought up.
Yes.
Let's give it a couple of minutes on air.
Okay.
And we would love to hear from you on the Facebook page or via Twitter or via email or post something on the blog or whatever.
Yeah,
Get
on
the
the
word
website.
to us if you have a thought on this.
Right.
We want to do a quiz having to do with history. So it's one of those things like facts are irrefutable.
Yes, exactly.
These are historical facts, and Uncle Bocce will post. We don't know what the prize. There's got to be a prize. When you have a quiz, there's a prize.
Yeah, we haven't discussed that
But
yet.
we got to.
yeah.
I mean,
We'll do
I can
something.
tell you right now, it's going to be extremely difficult to ship a chocolate-filled donut every week. Now that would be the prize that I would give on it.
Okay.
Would be one chocolate-filled
Okay.
iced donut.
Maybe to a blueberry cake donut.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get your choice.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to be easy on you guys this week, and you'll find the answer.
Let's have. Well, don't do.
Wait,
you
go
want to
ahead.
do a trial run this week?
Yeah, I'm just going to give an easy one. It's not really relevant.
Who
to
is the
anything.
president of the United States?
No.
Oh, okay.
A little bit more difficult than that.
Well, I don't know. You might get some answers that
I
you
might.
weren't.
I might.
We talk about these Dems if they've been protesting since 1876.
There
Wow.
you go. Exactly. So this week's question is, who was the first president to have facial hair? And then who was the last president to have facial hair? May not be who you think, but guys, that's your challenge.
So that's
Wow, that's
so
good.
okay. But be very definitive.
yeah,
Does that
absolutely.
include a mustache only?
facial hair?
Anything
with facial
having-
hair.
Okay.
Even a goatee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really
and mutton
bu-
chops and all of that.
really bushy eyebrows.
Oh, I don't know about the eyebrows.
Okay.
I think that's natural.
Okay.
Okay. And that's it. See you next week.
Good.
No.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Stay where you are. You can't go yet. So we're gonna dive into. Let's listen to David Bray. We've got this. His new album is called Music on a Mission, and it's what he refers to as a storyteller album. So there's some music, and there are some messages about which David feels pretty strongly, and a lot of the rest of us should as well. Just as an FYI, I don't know whether you do it or not, but I would encourage everyone in the audience that no matter what the circumstances, I make it a point, and I think Uncle Bachi does too, but I definitely make it a point. When we're in a restaurant and there are people in uniform,
Yes.
or we are, at Starbucks, or we are, sometimes just standing at a traffic light waiting, and we're in Military City, USA, so we get plenty of opportunity. We always make sure to thank them for their service.
Absolutely.
And that includes firemen, police officers, anybody that's in a uniform of public service needs to hear that word of encouragement, and they sincerely appreciate it. All you
They
got to
do.
do is walk up and shake their hand, or if there's a group of them, you can thank them as a group, and it will make everybody feel better, including you for doing
That's right.
it. So
Smiles all the way.
all the way around,
Yep.
it really makes a big difference.
It's just so exciting to do that, to get their reaction. It really is. You ought to do it, people.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I highly encourage it. Give it a run. So the first clip that we're going to play from Dave Bray is called "The Thin Blue Line," right? And it's part of the storyteller piece. And then we're going to do a song that he's done, a rendition that he's done of a song by the name of "Amazing Grace."
Ooh.
All right, so we'll see how Dave does it. But first, let's listen to "A Thin Blue Line." Hit it.
Last call. When a person makes the decision to become an officer of the law, he or she is no longer a civilian like you and me. To uphold their title of police officer, they are forced to sacrifice and abandon certain rights that the average citizen holds dear. From that point on, they are sworn to serve and protect the good guys from the bad, and hold that ever so fragile piece of territory between peace and civil unrest, known as the Thin Blue Line. As a law enforcement officer, their fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against the violent or disorderly. They are also sworn to respect the constitutional rights of liberty, equality, and justice for all. Much like the military, they too swear an oath, and that oath, right hand raised, is called the Oath of Honor. Over the years, too many police officers have died to uphold that oath. They were mothers and fathers. They were daughters and sons, community leaders, coaches, and mentors. They didn't give their lives protecting their own personal families and belongings. They gave their lives by doing their job, protecting each and every one of us, and holding that ever so precious thin blue line. When I first heard a last call for a fallen police officer going out over the airwaves, I was truly moved. To hear the quivering voice of the female dispatcher trying her best to hold it together practically brought me to tears. Each time she called the badge number of that officer that was killed in the line of duty, a deathly silence and almost tangible darkness blanketed the airwaves. You could literally feel its emptiness. The words to this next song were written in response to the calls of that heartbroken dispatcher. They were written to represent the final words of a fallen officer, giving his last request to his wife, to his children, and to his brothers and sisters in blue. As you listen to the song, I want you to remember that if that thin blue line should happen to fail, then the daily sacrifice and the eternal commitment of protecting yourself, your loved ones, and all that you hold dear will very, very quickly become your own. So respect the badge. This is Last Call.
Excellent.
That is one of those tunes,
I know.
and almost everybody. This is almost an allness statement that I know. It brings tears to their eyes.
Yeah,
There is something about that particular song, and I know why it brings it to my eyes. And those of you in the audience, if it does it to you, you might want to think about why. And it's because it seems like funeral after funeral after funeral in my family seemed to include that song. Mm-hmm. That was the request of the deceased. I don't know why that one song out of the entire hymnal was the one that they would select. So that's what it means to me is not just the Amazing Grace piece of it, but when it is presented.
It's great.
But he did a good job.
He did an excellent job.
I apologize that we did the Thin Blue Line and then didn't follow it up with the appropriate song.
Yeah, we'll
My
catch
bad,
up
Dave. I
sometime.
was kind of taking things out of context and looking more at the time allocated than actually following the storyteller part of the album. So we'll get back to it.
Just a
Yes,
comment.
sir.
I think Dave has reached his inner self. He's where he's supposed to be with this music.
It appears so.
Yeah,
Yes.
because before they were, a lot of rock music, and to me, now comparing, it seemed to me like he was a great performer, but he was doing things just because he was an artist. But now he's got soul.
Well, it's all him.
Yeah, it's all. That's what I'm saying.
This is he's doing these in his own studio. I mean, it's all him. This is completely independently
and it's coming
produced.
through. It's coming through.
And I think we're working to get him on the show.
Good.
Now at the release of his album, he's a little tougher to get. But back on the show, I should say, we've had him on a couple of times, and you may find some insight into what you just said as a result of the conversation we'll have.
I believe it.
And that may be a good observation on your part.
Good. That's okay.
Good job. Good job. So let's talk about the title of the show and see what we can kind of ferret out, if you will. Uncle, if you joined us during the first half of the show, which I sincerely hope you did, because the show has a tendency to have a flow to it that is a thought, sort of a conscious effort, to carry it through and do what we call connecting the dots. Uncle Bocce presented us with the story of a president in 1876 who may very well have been sort of the Trump of his day, or the George W. Bush of his day, or in general, and we're going to find as Bocce continues through history, if each and every Republican president has been denied the luxury of being elected president. In other words, in recent history, 40 to 50 years, only the Democrats, when they're elected president, are given a pass. Or only when a Democrat is elected does the losing party say, "Okay, you won. We'll regroup and take another run at you in 4 years." And they do, and that's the respectful thing to do. That's what this democracy is built on. That's what this republic is built on. Is free and fair election, free, fair, honest, elections by the citizens of the country, albeit a very small minority of the citizens, which is something that has pained me since I was 7 years old or something like that. It's just dumbfounds me that people do not vote. And I guarantee, I have a solution for it, and everybody thinks I'm nuts. But anyway.
Just one side comment, since
Please.
you mentioned the percentage.
Yep.
For this particular election,
Yep.
you know what the percentage was of turnout? It was 81%.
Wow.
In the Rutherford B in 1876.
Yes. Can you
Wow.
imagine that?
That's a number we need to watch.
Yeah. I
through
agree.
your history thing.
I agree.
I want to know
Keep
when
that in there.
81%.
Yes, sir.
And now it's less than half of the remainder between 100 and 81.
Yeah.
It's 9 or 10%.
Yeah.
I'll bet you.
Unfortunately.
That's crazy.
I know.
It is.
That sends us down a different path.
I'm sorry.
No, I brought it up.
Yeah.
I brought it up. The point I'm trying to make is that I've been reading a lot lately by some very intelligent people.
Oh, you read my book.
That
Sorry.
hey, he's on a
Humor.
roll. He's on a
Humor.
roll. No more chocolate chip cookies before the show.
Oh, my goodness.
The sugar just gets him going. So, but the point they're making is the fact that we don't think that we are about to be in a civil war. We are in a civil war.
Yes, we are.
Right now, it happens to be civil.
Hey, yeah.
Okay,
Good.
it's a
Yes.
civil. Although some of us don't think so, but the war of words and the denial of Trump and anything that he wants to do, and just the constant. You did not win, and we're not going to let you govern the country as you want to, because we're just going to keep being a pain in your side. That's a civil war. When you have an election and the losing side says no, you didn't win. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to obey what you say.
That's right.
That's civil disobedience. That's a civil war, and that's exactly what is going on, and it has been going on for generations.
Yes, it has.
Right now, it is just because of the exposure that it's getting that it is coming to our attention. You follow me?
Yes.
But that literally is all that it is. And so I don't profess to have a solution to it. There is no way that you're going to speak logic to someone that is in that level of denial about the election.
Correct.
I mean, they call themselves never Trumpers, and that's literally who they are. That is their identity. And I mean, I really can't put myself in their place. I mean, there have been plenty of presidents elected that I really did not want to be president. But I didn't go berserk, nutso bananas, denying that they had won. I simply kept quiet and went about my business and tried to unseat them the next time. Anna was making notes like writing. Oh, yeah, I did. A friend of mine wrote a book. S.A. Hillcrest. Yeah. I mean, if it bothers you enough, get it out of your system. Figure out a way to get it out of your system. But don't take it out. It's really not very becoming, as my mother would say, to act out that way about the President of the United States, whether you like Mr. Trump or not. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that I would like him as a man. There's an awful lot of things that he's done, and I have a hard time getting along with people that grew up where he grew up anyway.
Right.
I mean, but he's the President of the United States of America, and he was duly elected to that office.
Exactly.
That's it, folks. Plain and simple. This is just not hard to understand.
And he's also a president that's actually carrying out what he said during his campaign.
He sure is trying.
He's trying.
He's doing his best.
Yeah.
I mean, there's over 800 things that he's turned around, turned over, reversed, thrown away. You know, I mean, he's chopping at it, boom, boom. You know, this he's a workaholic.
Yeah.
And I was right. He's going at it as best he possibly can in the face of all of this pushback.
Yep.
It's like he's ignoring it and pressing ahead with what he said he would do. Some of the big things he may not have gotten done, but he's gotten little pieces of them done. We heard about one last night that I remember it came up, but it didn't become that big a deal. Are you aware that President Trump and his administration, you got to say it that way because we used to talk about his predecessor and the administration. I mean, they're all in it together. It's not just this one guy. He may be the figurehead and the leader, but it's his team that's now in control. His team has done away with the individual mandate for Obamacare.
Yes.
Now that may not sound like much of a big deal, right?
Right.
First of all, they got it kind of sneaky. They put it into a budget bill, and really nobody knew it was there. They didn't make a big deal about it. They just sort of wrote it in, and everybody was so happy to get their pork money, to take back to their home territory to say, look what I got you. Boom. There it was. And if you don't know what that means that the young people, mostly the young people, got off the hook, which was a hook they should have never been put on in the first place, right?
Right.
And what that means is that if you don't have health insurance, you're not going to get penalized for not having health insurance. You're not required by law to pay a penalty if you don't have insurance. That's what was written into. It was the first time in the history of this country that the government said you must buy something, anything, and we're going to use our friends at the IRS to beat you up and run you down and put you in jail if you don't either buy it or pay this penalty. And the penalty was set to increase year after year after year to eventually make you buy insurance.
Yeah.
And they did away with that. That's huge.
That is huge.
That's huge with a Y.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
That's and it's coercion.
Oh, it's
And
mafia.
remember what the Brits did to the colonies with their coercive acts?
I don't remember as well as you.
No, I know,
sure.
but you say, you guys are going to do this, period.
Yeah,
no matter.
right.
And that's what this is. It's the same thing. We haven't learned.
That's why my friend S.A. wrote the book.
No, that's right.
And so, but that's just one of over 800 things that this administration has overturned or done away with.
Yep.
All right? And not everybody is going to like everything that they're doing. Not everybody's going to understand putting tariffs on things that come into this country. Not everybody likes tariffs. There's all sorts of things that but look at it this way. Look at it through one. Have you been told to look at things through a particular lens? A friend of mine has a radio show, Greg Young. God bless you, Greg. Lived through a horrific accident. Unbelievable. Anybody with less faith would have never made it. But the tagline to his show is they view everything through a Christian lens or a lens of religion or something. But that's his
Focus.
lens. That's his. Back in the day, the Beatles did a song about rose-colored glasses, I think. Wasn't that them? About looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. In other words, it kind of changes the glamour. So look at President Trump and his administration through a lens of business. Business only. Not politics. Business. Dollars and cents. Profit and loss. Growth and no growth. Buy American, don't buy American. In other words, look at everything the way, and that's all he's doing. He is running the country as if it were a great, big business. And it's real easy to figure out what he's doing and to see what he's going to do next, because that's what he's used to doing, running a great, big, global business. So when we second guess what he's doing with Iran or Russia or North Korea or the Chinese or Venezuela or wherever else he winds up interacting with, I don't worry about him at all from a business perspective.
Yeah.
I don't worry about him protecting his business that he owns, which is the United States.
Amen.
I mean, he didn't buy it, but he owns it. For the time being, he has taken what we in business call accountability for the country, and that's extremely difficult to find. In business, people who will take, you can't even find people who will take accountability for the 6 customers that they have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have accounts payable clerks that won't take the accountability to cut a check for an invoice. Well, they don't want that responsibility. They'll keep pushing it, shuffling around their desk until somebody else says, I'm going to go pay that. You'd be amazed. It happens all the time. It is pitiful, but it happens. The world we live in doesn't want accountability.
Oh, that's for sure.
They don't. Young, and the younger the person,
The less.
the less they're willing to take on the accountability. It's going to be a problem when you get older, kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody
Unfortunately.
going to have to step up and turn the lights on. Or you'll all be muddling around in the dark. Huddled over behind the guy that has insurance. Just thought I'd bring. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and so look at what he's doing. Not from a business perspective, and don't this idea of pushing back and not supporting the president of the United States is absolute folly.
I'd use a stronger word, but yeah. agree.
If a young person is going to go down that path and to buy into that concept and buy into that rhetoric, I think you're in for a very challenging young adulthood.
Yes.
Because I don't think that this is going to let up anytime soon. If all you're going to take to the election is I hate Trump, if that's what you're going to run on is I hate Trump, I don't think you're going to get a lot of votes. Well, what do you stand for? Well, I hate
what
Trump.
do you stand for?
Well, what are
Yeah.
you going to do for the country? Well, I don't like Trump. Well, but what are you going to do about the illegal aliens? Well, I'm damn sure not going to do what Trump's going to do. That's all they say, and that's all they're bringing to the party right now.
Right?
Because they don't want to own it then if they have
They
a
don't.
plan.
That's right. There's a whole lot going on, and this pushback against Trump is just what you're seeing on the surface. It's the people behind the curtains pulling the strings on the marionettes
That's right.
that Trump is after and that we need to worry about. Not Trump. That my bad. The administration is after and we need to worry about. It's called the deep state. It's called the drain the swamp.
Resistance.
Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.